Hi guys, today I've got something very special for you, an interview, my very first interview that I did with the lovely and incredibly talented Shameela Khambhaita. Shameela is based in Adelaide and she's an Ayurvedic and wellness coach, leader. She just does so many brilliant, amazing things. She is the founder and director of Subconscious Health and Beyond. She's an all-round holistic health practice, which I love. So it targets, as an Ayurveda does, that mind, body and spirit element, soul element, whatever you like to call it. She's also the creator of Cherub Veda programs, the Transform Veda programs, and I need to look at my notes to read this, and the Veda Holistic Health and Wellbeing Professionals Business Mentorship Program. Along with hosting a number of really successful webinars, lectures, talks. She's also in the process of writing her first book on the power of the subconscious mind, which I'm really excited to get my eyes into. So anyway, today's interview was amazing. The topics really digressed into some really interesting areas about health and wellness and how we are our own healer, and most of all how love is the catapult, is the nut to how we really transform our lives, from leaving places of fear and all of these nasty kind of negative energy spaces, instead fusing in from this place of love can be magical in our healing process. So I really hope you enjoy today's interview. And if you like this video, please make sure that you give it a thumbs up. Ooh! I'm getting too excited with my thumbs up. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel, or you can follow me over at Facebook. So without further ado, here is the interview with myself and Shameela Khambhaita.
All right, well, I am so excited to be talking with you today. So thanks so much for being here. I think I was once told at the beginning of my Ayurveda studies that you don't choose Ayurveda, that Ayurveda chooses you. And
Absolutely.
and it's stuck with me ever since, and I just love that notion. So keeping that in mind, can you remember the time in your life when Ayurveda chose you?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember it still today, and very, very clearly. Now, I have Ayurveda in my blood in that my grandfather was a practitioner.
Wow.
So when I was growing up, in terms of the principles and the practice of Ayurveda, I was already doing that in my family home with my father. But I used to always watch my grandfather. We didn't have a close relationship, and he died when I was quite young. But I'd always watch him. He would be making potions, and there were all these wonderful aromas coming from the room. And I'd think, what's he doing? And I thought it was a bit strange, to be perfectly honest, at the time. I didn't understand it. But all the principles in terms of having that daily routine, the Nacharya, so waking up at a certain time, the practice of tongue scraping, oil pulling, meditation, spending time in nature, the incense, the aromatherapy, everything was around me without really understanding and connecting with what it was. And whilst I was growing up, I still continued to practice some of those things, but my journey started in terms of when I was born in England, and I had a strong focus on health from when I was very young, purely because of the illness in my family. My father was very sick. My aunt was very ill. So my motivation and my passion had always been to fix my family, to find a way to heal them, which is what led me to study pharmacology. And so after studying and practicing pharmacology in England, in Europe, and then coming to Australia, the more work I was doing, what I was understanding was that what I'm doing is I'm supporting suppression of symptoms rather than connecting with what is causing the disharmony, and then understanding more and more with my own independent investigation, the connection between the body and the mind. And it was actually when I arrived here in Adelaide. So I came to Australia in 2006. And then I moved to Perth 2008. And then I came to Adelaide 2010. And I was headhunting because I was still in the pharmaceutical industry at this point. So I spent 15 years developing, designing, manufacturing, marketing, testing drugs.
Wow.
Mentor trained by the FDA and TGA, working with the world's largest pharmaceutical companies. And when I came to Adelaide, working for the main hospital here, running Australia's largest phase 1 clinical trial drug unit, I came to the realization on my late father's birthday that this is all wrong. What I'm doing is, I can't continue to do what I'm doing because I'm not healing anyone. And it just, something intuitively was telling me it doesn't feel right. So you put that message out to the universe. And it was one weekend when my good friend from England and her 2 children came here to Adelaide to visit. And we were at the Fisherman Wharf markets in Port Adelaide. And the children were running amok. They were running around. And so I actually started to go after them to kind of get them to come back. So I was super excited. And I literally bumped into a book stand. And there in front of me was this book, Ayurveda Beauty by Janet Wright.
Wow.
And it had this beautiful lotus picture, and it just, looking at the cover of the book, it was quite a big book. I do have it somewhere amongst my many books. And it just looked peaceful, just the book, the cover, and I was drawn to it. So I picked it up and I started to flick through, and it had massage, and I could see it was all about beauty and nature, and I didn't look at it in too much detail, but I thought, well, okay, this looks good, something to read on the beach or whatever. And I spent, I think it was a whole $1.20 purchasing the book. And then when I got home, I started to read through it, and I thought, wow, there's something here that I'm connecting with. So that led me to research more books, and then that led me to formally study Ayurveda here and then in India as well. So that's really how Ayurveda found me. I literally bumped into it.
Thank you. I love it so much.
Because it's like I was feeling that the work that I was doing wasn't right. This wasn't true health. And that realization came to me when I was in the Garden of Health in the Adelaide Botanic Gardens, when I was sitting there and I was just talking to my father, as I do, and asking him, like, why is this feeling so wrong? The work that I've done, I'm very well respected in my field. You know, financially, I was getting a huge reimbursement for the work I was doing, but it just did not sit right with me. And when I was sitting there amongst all these herbs, I was just getting that constant message, quit.
Wow.
You're not meant to be there. So I did. Wow. And it's actually today, on Australia Day, that I registered my very first business in 2013. So it's a really special day.
No way, wow.
I had no idea what I was doing, apart from I could see I had a vision. And so I registered the name, and I had 6 areas. I had consultations, massage, weight loss, Ayurveda, so health and well-being for children, cooking, retreats. And I had the 6 areas, and I had absolutely no idea how I was going to do it. So it's a really beautiful day to be doing this and having this conversation with you, because it's very close to my heart. So again, it's unbelievable how Ayurveda has completely transformed my life, and being able to work with thousands and thousands of people now, not only in Australia, across Australia, around the world, helping people understand how the magic of Ayurvedic wisdom can completely transform your life in unimaginable ways. It's just what's happened to me. I still every day wake up and I pinch myself. It's like, this isn't real. I feel like I'm living in a dream. And it's really from the heart. You know, you feel it, you connect with it. So that's really quite a long-winded way of answering your question.
I love it.
Of how Ayurveda found me.
Oh, that is just beautiful, and I feel blessed that I'm sharing this on such a special day. That is really amazing. All these coincidences, it blows my mind, the serendipity of everything. That's incredible. Yes. So I did want to kind of go back to that time as well, even though you've given a beautiful kind of synopsis of where you led up to Ayurveda, but can you tell us a bit about what was life like for you growing up?
Growing up, yeah. Growing up, not a very settled environment. My whole journey, my whole life really, I've experienced quite a lot of, I guess, the word traumatic is probably the best way to explain it, but very disconnected family unit, raised predominantly by my father and my aunt. My mother left me when I was a child, or disconnected from me when I was a child. And so emotionally, it was not a stable environment to be in. But what I used to do just to help me to stay balanced was I kept watching what my father and his practices. So he would sit in meditation, and he would be journaling, and he would doing the puja and like the religious ceremonies and the mantras, and watching my grandfather and my father would fast one day a week. And so I, kind of being daddy's girl, I was like, I want to be just like him. So I started to implement those things as well as a child, without really understanding at that time the effect and the benefits it was doing for me. Connecting with food on another level, really feeling and tasting the food. And so whereas most children perhaps would spend their childhood playing with toys, and these days really it's electronics, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately.
But with a lot of people spending time, children would be playing or watching cartoons. I actually used to sit, and I remember this really specifically because my auntie was an amazing cook. She had this really big high chair that she bought, and I just sit on that, waving my feet like this, my legs, watching her cook. I was fascinated how she was able to create such amazing dishes without following a recipe. Everything was just throwing everything in. So from very raw, basic materials, growing up in a vegetarian household, watching her create all these raw materials and just combining everything together without second guessing. She just knew exactly what to do. And it used to fascinate me. So from a young age, I was hooked on food. My relationship, my love for food was there. And so that's really, they're the sorts of things. I can still smell it now, her beautiful dishes, and just watching her creating food through love. And then her even teaching me and saying to me how important it is to bless the food before we eat it, and having that connection with food. And as a child, you kind of, when you have people around you, family members around you, absolutely adore, you got to listen to everything that they're saying, because you can see the benefits it was having for them. So childhood, whereas I had a disconnected relationship from my mother, which was very hard for me growing up, and that did cause a lot of, I guess, heartache in my childhood as a teenager, and also affected me in my early life as an adult, feeling that constant rejection. The memories I connect with are those powerful moments with my father, with my aunt, teaching me the principles from the start, and explaining to me how natural and how necessary it was as part of daily living. So yeah, I was surrounded by food and aromas and love, and I can still feel it now just talking to you. That was the Ayurveda was there from the start. It was just part of who I was. But what happened to me is when I actually became a teenager, you start to become influenced with people around you, circumstances around you, obviously the change in your own personal development, other interests. And so that's when watching, as I was getting older, seeing my father and my auntie's health deteriorate. My auntie died of renal disease. So she had issues from when she was very young. And my father had a number of conditions, health-wise, diabetic, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, transient ischemic attacks, liver issues. There's like so many different problems that he had. So watching his health go spiraling downwards, that's when I connected during my teen years that I need to do something to help my family, to fix them. And that's where I was led to study at medical school in Leeds, at Leeds University, focusing specifically on pharmacology, because I wanted to develop the blockbuster drug to help my family.
Wow.
And that was my motivation. And so during my teens, I was that focused on studying that's what I used to do. It was just study to get into university, get through my degree, and then get out into the field to try and fix my family.
Wow.
So a very interesting, I guess, journey during my childhood. And because of the emotional imbalances and the emotional trauma I personally experienced, as well as the physical trauma when I was very, very young, that is what motivated me and I guess why I'm so passionate when I work with children. Every day, weekdays, I spend at least 3 to 4 hours working specifically with children in terms of health and well-being through love. Now, if I hadn't had those childhood experiences myself, I would not be passionate about it. And a lot of people still question that, because I do so many different things in terms of the coaching, the consultations, public speaking, conferences, seminars, writing. I do so many different things, and they just can't understand, why do you spend time working with children? And I said, because they're our future. If you embed in them the basic principles of Ayurveda and the magic and the power right from when they're young, they are going to grow up with it embedded in their being, and they'll see it something normal rather than what the strong focus really is. And it's changing now. I can feel it in the energy. But what we tend to do is we go through our journey, and at a certain point in our adult life, we come to the realization that just, something's not right. I want something more. I'm not feeling fulfilled. And then people are now then moving towards more of a spiritual path and a holistic path. And when I talk about spirituality, and just to be clear on what I mean by that, because that always is a bit of a buzzword, isn't it? When people think about spirituality and they start thinking about chanting and mantras, and they have a different perception. When I refer to spirituality, what I explain to people, the difference between spirituality and religion, and this is my own personal interpretation, is I always say to people, religion is following another person's journey, but spirituality is connecting to your own.
Wow.
And it was what my father said to me when I was probably around 14, 15. And I used to be the why girl as a child. If I didn't understand something, I'd be going, why? Why? We used to do it. And it used to completely drive me nuts. I had a lot of questions about the Hindu religion. My family were brought up in a Hindu background. And I always had various questions. Why is everyone blue? Why are there so many gods and goddesses? Why is this like this? Why is it so important to understand the movement of the sun and the moon? And to drive my father nuts, probably. He never said that to me, bless him. But I can just imagine, looking back now, I probably was driving him nuts, constantly asking why. Because I've always been that person that I have to understand, feel, and connect to something before I make a decision as to whether that's right for me. And being a Taurian, bit of a stubborn bull, it's just not going to work for me. So he said to me the very wise words which stuck with me, and that really led me in terms of my own independent investigation of the truth, as I call it. He said to me, study all the religions, study all the faiths. Take from all of them what resonates for you and create your own, and then share it with the world. So I was like, oh, well, that really did shut me up.
Wow.
Because he actually said to me, I'm giving you the freedom. You don't have to follow what I'm doing. Go and find out for yourself. Go into the world and work it out for yourself. Which, again, as a child, that's a very powerful thing, because we are constantly programmed, aren't we? Our own belief system, when we go back to our childhood, the way we act, the way we behave, the way we interpret situations is as a result of all the role models or all the people that we spend most of our time with during our childhood, because that is what is normal to us, because that's what we constantly are being exposed to. Whereas when a parent, the man you absolutely adore, says to you, go, study, and work it out for yourself, and then he said his exact words to me, and goes, and then go and teach the world. And I was like, yes. I don't know if you've seen the Wonder Woman moment, and there's a little girl, the recent Wonder Woman, and Diana, when she's a girl, and she's like, oh, that was me. Feisty. I'm like, right. Said that, so I need to now go and do it. And so I spent a lot of time during my teens and early adult life, before I joined the corporate environment after graduating, studying all the religions. And so a lot of people do often question, they'll say, oh, what religion are you? And I said, my own. And they'll look at me and they'll notice that I've got a cross, I've got an Omkar around my house, I've got Buddhas everywhere, I've studied the Quran, I've studied the Bible, I've studied the Bhagavad Gita, the Baha'i faith, all of them, to find things that like this, I feel this, I connect with this. it was when I actually studied one faith in particular, the Baha'i faith, I could just feel it, the synergies between Ayurveda and the words of Abdul Baha about, again, returning to nature. Our true essence is, and our path and our journey ultimately returns us back to nature.
That we're all connected to it. We are part of it.
We are part of it. We are it.
Exactly. Yeah. We have this disconnect.
Fascinating stuff.
It's
so lovely. I love sharing and having these sort of conversations. So it's an absolute blessing being with you today, Annie, because it's just, again, and then that's when you connect with like-minded people and other people. Everyone's trying to search for the truth. But what's happening is, what I find is, people are people are more likely to rely on another being to tell them the truth, whereas they're not connecting with their inner self to find the truth. And that is the one thing, if someone was to say to me, what did Ayurveda teach you? That is one thing I would say, is it taught me the ability to connect with myself. Think about who I am.
Yes, well, you've just swiped off one of my questions, so that's fantastic.
So it taught me how to connect with myself and being comfortable with that. And so a lot of the work that I do is about helping and educating people to become their own best healers. One of the things on my website I have is, I exist to empower people to become to empower people to become the best version of themselves. So to help them understand that all the experiences in their life have been created specifically, no matter how hard it is to actually digest what I'm saying, because there are people who have experienced some awful things in their life, but I explain that those things have specifically been created as part of your journey of soul evolution. It's your journey of returning to yourself. If those experiences didn't exist, then you would continuously keep replaying the same thing over and over again. And we all know this. We all know about the law of attraction, and everyone knows about The Secret, and we all know this, but why is it so hard to implement it? Why don't we focus on it? Because everyone is looking for immediate results. And as we know, Ayurveda teaches us that the primary goal is prevention over treatment. The primary goal is implementing practices, is implementing routines, it's having a connection through love. And that's what I say to people, is a connection through here that is really the way forward. People don't love enough these days. It's crazy. I'm the type of person, I'm such a hugsy person. I kind of leap out and hug everyone, and sometimes probably a bit scary for some. It's like, oh my goodness, how can you be such an energy bubble? One of my clients, she recently said, she goes, you're my balance ball in life. She goes, you keep me balanced, you keep me grounded. And some of them refer to me as like Miss Motivator and stuff like that, because that you just, when you can push out that energy to others, others feel it, and it gives people hope. So when you look at someone, like, I'm just a regular person doing my thing, and then you talk to them about having a very traumatic childhood at the age of 16. This is actually in my book, which I'm planning to release this year. I was actually raped at the age of 16 as well by someone I knew. And then in my during my years in my 20s, at the age of 29, I lost my father to suicide. I found him minutes after speaking to him on the phone. He was just done. His health was really going downwards, and so he said to me 7 minutes before he took his life, when I spoke to him on the phone, I was on my way to see him. He actually said, I'm tired. And through meditation and connecting with him, he actually said, I asked God to take me, but he wouldn't, so I did it myself. Because that experience, it was part of my path. It's hard to hear that, and it took me a long time to come to that realization, because I kept asking the question, why? What could have I done? And then after that experience in my life, entering a marriage, and entering a physically abusive marriage in a foreign country, which started on my wedding night. So when you talk to people about your own journey, and they're like, well, knowing me now, how can you, I always get that, I just can't see you being that person. And it's like, but I was, But don't focus on that. Focus on the fact that if someone as simple as me has been able to connect with the true mother of healing, to be able to overcome these experiences and look at them in a positive way, because how has it helped me? How has it helped me progress? If I hadn't had those multiple experiences in my life, and it's very painful for some, even when I talk about it, I can talk about it, but other people, their reaction is, whoa, it's like, it's hard to hear. And I explained to them, if I hadn't been through those experiences, I would not be as passionate as I am now when it comes to working with people. And there isn't a single person that walks into my clinic for a session that I can't help, because I truly believe the divine is sending the right people. I'll say that, send people to me that I can help in terms of moving forward on their journey. I'm not there to fix them, but I'm there to empower them to fix themselves.
That is beautiful, and that is exactly my philosophy as well. I cannot resonate more with that. It's just perfect. And I really wanted to talk about as well, you put a lot of focus on the subconscious mind, which I'm so passionate about, because I feel it really is so pivotal in how we grow and evolve and perform as human beings. And we've got this whole other aspect of ourselves which people tend to almost ignore or don't even believe that it exists. So can you tell me what kind of impact do you think the subconscious mind has on us, and how important is it compared to our physical health and our mental health?
Absolutely. Great question. I love it. My philosophy when I speak to people is total health begins in the mind. Okay? There's a lot of emphasis on the mind-body connection, but people, I don't feel, are necessarily truly understanding what that means. Now, when we look at health, when you say to someone, oh, look, there's a healthy person, they're always looking at more of the physical. And there's two things that I say to my clients, that ultimately you are in complete control of what you put into your body and what you allow in your mind. Now, if you connect with that, everything makes sense. Because what we're constantly creating in terms of our emotions, it's an illusion. We're creating those based on our own interpretation of words, of situations, of experiences. More often than not, other people's experiences. It's like when you go into Google, I do this with my clients, and we'll talk about particular words, and they'll say, hey, what does love mean to you? And they'll come up with their definition, and you type it in Google, and it comes up with some ridiculous interpretation because it's so generic. And that's what I explain to people. Words are energy. But the definition of every single word that is accessible on the planet, all the words that we know, is a unique definition to us. And no one else is ever going to get that, but they don't have to. So don't be what everyone else wants you to be. Create your own definition for every word that resonates for you and live that. And so when we're looking at the subconscious mind, as I say to people, it's like an online catalog. You know, when you do online shopping, you put in your order and then magically it just appears. Yeah. And so the power of the subconscious mind, and that's where I came up with the business name Subconscious Health and Beyond, is understanding that we have the ability, we completely have the ability to create our reality by connecting and managing and interpreting the way we process thoughts in our mind. So everything is already present within the subconscious mind, but it's been suppressed. It's really, really deep down, and it takes a lot of effort to connect with it. But when you do, magical things happen. You can actually make things happen. And when it comes to how the mind impacts physical health, this is what people still don't understand. I feel a lot of people, they don't quite understand how important it is to rebalance the mind and manage our thoughts in comparison to when we're looking at the physical body. A lot of people, when they go on to health programs, there's a lot of emphasis on, when it comes to health programs, on the physical. So the exercise, the nutrition, portion control, all the rest of it. And when I developed my program, Transform Weather, which is total total transformation. So that's body and mind. When people sign up for that, they're expecting me to sit there and start to talk about food and nutrition and looking at what they're eating and when they're eating and how they're eating and that component. And what I do is I start off with the mind. And I explain to them, and they're like, well, aren't we going to talk about food now? I'm like, no, we probably won't get to that around until about week 6 or 7, 5 or 6, maybe 7, depends on you, really. It's all about you. Responsibility back on them. And it's when you connect with that, because all our, I guess, when you think about the genie and how everyone has an association with the genie, who granted 3 wishes. Well, the genie didn't actually grant 3 wishes. It was unlimited. You can have anything you want. So that's what we're talking about with the subconscious mind. It's like the genie. It's like you have the ability to have what you want. Just connect with it and open it up. Feel. Everything comes down to feeling. We don't feel, do we? As people, we don't feel. That question that comes up over and over again, if you ask someone the question, how are you feeling today? It's a common question. Hey, hi, how are you going? How are you feeling? Oh, I'm really good. And then you're like, no, hang on, how are you feeling? Just stop. How are you feeling right now? And then they go, I'm actually really tired. I've had a big week and I've got this really bad pain in my back. And to be honest, I'm just done. Say that to someone. So if you met me for the first time and you asked me that question and I said that, where would the conversation go next? All right. So this is when we're talking about the subconscious mind. It's everything to do with feeling. It's learning and it's training yourself to feel, because that is the true essence. When you feel, that is when you have the pathway and the rebalancing in the body and the mind. So to me, total health begins in the mind. Yeah. And when we connect with that and understanding the influence the mind, the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts has on our physical well-being. And that is why when we look at ultimate true healing, when there's number and thousands of case studies when people are diagnosed with a particular condition, but then you support them to understand that you're already healed. And then it's the power of the mind when we look that actually creates that facilitates the healing, because you feel you're already healed and you're living that. It's like when you say as soon as you diagnose a person, again the labeling, as soon as you diagnose a person with a condition, straight away in terms of our own body, what happens? Our health starts to go downwards because fear sets in. I've been diagnosed with a particular condition, right? But if you said to someone, it's time now for you to focus on your health and well-being, these are the things to start thinking about, nurturing yourself, loving yourself, without giving them a label of what is happening in their body, how different would their journey be to returning to themselves and towards health? It's the labeling that causes the damage. I mean, having run hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clinical trials for companies around the world, and as I mentioned, running Australia's largest phase 1 clinical trial drug unit, watching volunteers coming in and either having the active ingredient or placebo and seeing the effect of the placebo, because they truly believe they're getting the active compound and they think they're healing, and it's again, why is that? Where does that even come from? Because they don't know whether they're getting active or placebo, yet the results are, if you have a look, having done this and this research, it's like, well, how come the people who are focusing more on meditation and breathing and look at different food that they like, changing their nutrition plan in comparison to the other, why are they healing at a rapid rate? Why is their outlook in life more positive? Why look and feel happy? Yeah, they're thinking it's this little pill, when it's reality they're doing it themselves.
It's just so true. The power of the mind is just incredible.
And that's where it's like connected. It's like the work of the power of the subconscious mind. That when we look at health, such an emphasis on the physical, clean eating. I hear that term a lot. I'm sure you do. That's fine, follow a clean diet. That's fantastic. Talk to me about it. And they tell you the food that they're having, and it's like, that's not working for you because the elements in your body. You're eating food like you, and therefore your symptoms are aggravating. So So it's like, understand that you are exactly the same as the food that you're eating. And if you get more and more of the same within you, that's why you're having a problem. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to put you on something slightly different and see how that works for you.
Wow.
Like, wow, this actually does work. There's something here. I guess when it comes to Ayurveda, the restriction I feel, which I know is changing and will be changing, is that need for evidence. Where's the evidence? Where's the scientific proof? It exists. It's there.
Yeah.
But do we really need to rely on a piece of paper telling us that someone somewhere in the world has done some kind of research comparing two particular models, and they've come to a particular conclusion after working on a small population of the world, that it makes it true? Implement it yourself and figure it out for yourself. That's the most powerful evidence. We don't need to rely on another person with multiple titles and qualifications to tell us that, because we can do it ourselves.
Yeah, and I mean, and they're showing that the studies, they're so behind on the game almost, but the studies that they are showing is that, yes, there is a complete link from the mind to the gut. It's just straight. And Ayurveda's known that for thousands of years.
So again, maybe it's part of, again, when you look at humanity, we had to go through these lessons to understand that this is not working. So it is part of the master plan to bring us back to, it's back to basics, isn't it, really? Understanding that the world is it's all about accumulation and acquiring more and more and more constantly. But understanding, Ayurveda has taught me as well, how little we actually need to live a healthy and fulfilled, happy life full of love and gratitude. If everyone actually worked through love rather than what the next big thing is, and what their friends are doing, what their family is doing, and what the media is saying. It's nothing. I don't watch TV at all.
Yes, neither. Yes.
TV. And again, a lot of people think that's a bit strange. It's like, I truly believe whatever information and news I'm supposed to receive will come, because that's relevant for me to know, and everything else can just disappear.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's fantastic. So before we wrap up, I wanted to quickly hear what you think about the fundamentals. So actually, stripping back, I want to know about your book, firstly. Yeah. So The Journey to Subconscious Health. You're planning that's coming to come out this year. Can you tell me a bit about this book?
So it is a book about my life and my experiences, and it's a very simple, easy to read book, which again is, as part of the book, there are hints and tips and recommendations all the way through. So it's not just a book about my life, but as part of each section, I've explained how I actually overcame those challenges and what measures can be put in place to support people who are experiencing something similar. And the delay really was because I was planning to launch it last year, but as last year my birth mother reconnected with me. We haven't had a relationship for most of my life, and she reconnected with me. And so I really, as part of the book, at the end, I want to go and meet her and see her, and I'd like to put like the ending with my mother there as well, because despite the pain I had felt previously as a child and that rejection that I felt, she's my mother and I love her, and I always will. There'll be unconditional love, and I want to help other people understand how, she started my journey really. And it may have not been in the ideal way that people would think, but if her choices about me, if that hadn't happened, that I would not be where I am today. And a lot of people find that hard. It's like, how can you say that? I said, because my mother, but again, as part of my story of life and what was written for me, she's played the key role. Because my journey started in my childhood and I didn't realize it. So I want to meet her and take a photo with her, and I want to put that in my book. So the plan is April to meet, go over. And it's a pretty, it's been a very emotional journey, just reconnecting, having a phone call on my business landline and this voice and saying, oh, it's your mum calling you to wish you a happy birthday, was a little bit, at first I thought, this can't be true, someone's playing a joke. And then I phoned my best friend Rosa. I'm like, Rosa, I think my mum's just called me. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I said, I know, but I can't think anyone would play a joke on me. And I think it is her, but I didn't know. I don't know her. So that's why the delay, because the plan was to launch it at the end of last year. And so it's gone into this year. I'm not able because of my other projects that I'm doing. The earliest I can get there is April. So planning to take a photo with her and put that in the book, and then it'll be out there.
Oh,
and again, as I said, there's lots of books, and the way I've actually written the book is really separating each section. So it's like, this was the experience, and this is the these are my recommendations, and this is what I did. And one of the things I actually do in my practice with my clients is everything I do as a service is based on my own direct experience. I mean, I've studied I've done a lot of study in various areas, and have combined all those skills to deliver the service level that I do to my clients. And so, it's about combining all that and saying to people that this is what happened and what I went through, and this is how I got through, or this is what you can now do to work through it. So that's how I've actually done the book. So it's basically directed to help everyone from child health, family health, personal development, self-empowerment. It's a really different way of doing a book, the way I've written it. And it's really, literally, it's to help people. So it's just pick it up, and then you can flick through it and go, oh, good, this is what I'm going through right now. What do I do?
Yes.
And then you go back, oh, this is what it's like, Q&A of life.
Oh, I can't. I'll have to pre-order it. I can't wait. That's fantastic. All right. Well, so before we wrap up, I would love to know, just in a short, if you could give one piece of advice to anyone who's watching this to help them to overcome, or what would be your kind of biggest tip, perhaps, and using the word spiritually or subconsciously, what would be the most important tip, do you think, that could round out their health and happiness, or making a step forward in the right direction?
Yeah. What I would say is for every single person out there to stop and actually define their life, to actually write down what they want, and to be unrealistic. All right? That's where the magic starts, when you're clear on what you want, rather than looking around and seeing what everyone else wants. Connect with yourself, spend time with yourself, and actually define your life. Write your own story. Okay? Write down what you want. You can go back and look at the experiences in your life and look at the learning, because every experience, every single moment is an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for learning. So don't dwell on why. Let's remove the word why. Take away the word need. When we say I need to do something, no, and replace it with I choose. So I choose to live my life to the fullest. I choose to have abundance in all areas of my life. I choose to appreciate the simple things in life. I choose to be me. So that is what I would say. That stop looking for the answers around you, because it's right there within you. Connect that.
That is just music to my ears. I love it. I love it. It's just so great. But thank you so much for speaking with me. It's been absolute pleasure to have you and listening to your amazing story. It's just, I think this is going to touch a lot of people. So really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's been fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's stay in touch.
Definitely.
And see what happens.
Yes.
Lots of love to you.